In 1917, an empire collapsed, and the world watched as a radical new idea seized control of one of the largest nations on Earth. The Russian Empire, ruled by czars for over 3 centuries, crumbled under the weight of war, poverty, and unrest, and from its ashes rose the Soviet Union. The revolution was born from desperation. World War I had ravaged Russia. Millions died, the economy collapsed, and the people were starving. In February 1917, Tsar Nicholas II abdicated under pressure. A provisional government took control, but it was weak and unpopular. Then came the Bolsheviks. Led by Vladimir Lenin, the Bolsheviks promised peace, land, and bread. In October 1917, they overthrew the provisional government in Petrograd. The red flag flew over Russia, and a new socialist state was declared. This was not just a political revolution. It was a complete transformation of society. Lenin immediately pulled Russia out of World War I, signing the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with Germany. But peace did not last. Civil war erupted between the Red Army and the White forces, loyal to the old regime. The war was brutal and bloody. Villages burned, famine spread. Yet, by 1922, the Bolsheviks emerged victorious, and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR, was born. The USSR was a federation in name, but a dictatorship in practice. Lenin, however, was not a tyrant like those who would follow. He believed in the global revolution, in the spread of socialism worldwide. But his health deteriorated, and in 1924, Lenin died. Power passed to Joseph Stalin. Stalin was not interested in ideological purity. He was interested in control. His rule marked the beginning of one of the most repressive regimes in history. Stalin launched a series of 5-year plans to industrialize the Soviet economy. The country transformed almost overnight. Steel mills, railways, cities rising from the dirt. But the human cost was staggering. Forced collectivization of agriculture led to famine, especially in Ukraine, where millions perished in the Holodomor. Political purges wiped out anyone suspected of disloyalty. Intellectuals, generals, peasants, no one was safe. The secret police arrested millions. The gulags overflowed. Yet Stalin was untouchable. Then came war. In 1939, Stalin signed a pact with Hitler, dividing Eastern Europe into Soviet and Nazi spheres. But in 1941, Hitler betrayed Stalin and invaded the USSR. The Soviet people endured unimaginable suffering. Cities like Leningrad were starved under siege. Yet the Red Army pushed back. At Stalingrad, they turned the tide. By 1945, Soviet troops marched into Berlin. The USSR emerged from World War II as a superpower, but also as a devastated nation. 27 million Soviets had died. Stalin's grip only tightened. After Stalin's death in 1953, Nikita Khrushchev rose to power. He denounced Stalin's crimes in a secret speech, signaling a period known as de-Stalinization. Some gulags were closed. Art and culture briefly flourished. The USSR launched Sputnik, the first satellite, igniting the space race. But the Cold War also intensified. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 brought the world to the brink of nuclear annihilation. For 13 days, the fate of the world hung in the balance. In the end, diplomacy prevailed, but trust between the superpowers eroded further. Khrushchev was ousted in 1964, replaced by Leonid Brezhnev. Under Brezhnev, the USSR stabilized but stagnated. The economy slowed. Corruption grew. Dissent was crushed quietly without the terror of Stalin, but still ruthlessly. Meanwhile, the Soviet military expanded and the arms race continued. Invasion of Afghanistan in 1979 marked the beginning of the end. Soviet troops became entangled in a costly and unpopular war, often called the Soviet Union's Vietnam. Young soldiers died in a land they didn't understand. The world watched as the Soviet Union bled resources and morale. In 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev came to power. He introduced reforms, glasnost, or openness, and perestroika, or restructuring. These policies aimed to modernize the USSR, but they also exposed its flaws.
The state lied to us.
People began to speak out. Nationalist movements surged across the republics. The Berlin Wall fell in 1989. Communist regimes across Eastern Europe collapsed. And in 1991, after a failed coup attempt by hardliners, the Soviet Union dissolved. 15 independent nations emerged, and the red flag was lowered from the Kremlin. But the story didn't end there. In the chaos of the 1990s, Russia faced economic collapse, oligarchic rule, and social despair. Then, in 1999, a former KGB agent named Vladimir Putin became acting president. He promised stability. He brought order. Under Putin, Russia reasserted its power. The economy recovered, fueled by oil and gas. Media was brought under control. Opposition was silenced. Putin centralized authority and projected strength, both domestically and abroad. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea, defying international law. In 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The echoes of the Soviet past returned with force. From Lenin to Putin, the history of the Soviet Union and its legacy is one of ambition, suffering, transformation, and power. A nation that tried to build a utopia, but left behind a fractured world still wrestling with its consequences.
And so, the great patriotic readjustment ensured the prosperity and